Hey folks, Triple Crown here, coming to you from Vancouver, British Columbia. Well, I've started a new Global War 1939. I'm going to call this one Operation Cool Summer. Thank you folks for watching the recent rule update. So this is a round one, mid-round, so Germany and Japan have gone. And sorry for the delay. The Triple Crown was doing the Triple Crown cycling route yesterday. So I cycled 135 kilometers up the three local mountains in Vancouver, starting with Seymour, Grouse, and Cypress. So I'm a little tired today, but I did do this turn beforehand. This is just the video recap before I film the Allies and Italy for the second half of round one. So I did receive some feedback from the community, just concern, what happens if Germany, gets to annex all these boats, these French boats, what happens? Well, this is sort of the aftermath of round one. So and the dice early on in the game, they could do different things. They could be in Germany's favor, they could be in Free France's favor, or they could be split down the middle. And, there can be some debate about what is more valuable. These territories in Marseille and Northern Africa, if they go Vichy or Free France, how important or how significant are they to you? Same with Syria, that's a very important territory. And I know Hunt Like David feels these territories in Southern Asia are very important with Saigon and French Indochina, whether they go Vichy or Free French. So, you could have games where the boats tend to go more German or more Free French or the land territory. So these are, at least the land territories are 50-50, but you could have more of a 70-30 split or 80-20 split one way, which does, change things significantly and maybe what you're going to do in your game, depending on what happens after these dice rolls. But there is some other navies here. The Yugoslav Navy, that destroyer went German. So that is nothing to, that's important, because if the British get that, it links up with their British fleet in the Med, which gives them an extra boat on turn one. One of the submarines down here went Free French off the coast of, the heck is this territory? Tunisia. And up here, it was a kind of a split. So one cruiser went Free French, one cruiser went German. And, depending on what happens here, the British are set up. They've got two destroyers and a submarine ready to counterattack and perhaps sink whatever boats go German in the Med, which, is it significant? It does give Germany a little bit more, potentially on average, you should see, 2 to 3 more boats go German. There could be, I got a message, many as 7. That is going to be unlikely. But the Germans did very well round one in regards to their naval battles. When Norway fell, the British inherited a coastal submarine and a destroyer, and the Germans inherited the 2 coastal battleships, which are okay. They're not really the greatest, but they did. And they also rolled very well, as you can see here in C-Zone 23 off of London, and over here off of Scotland. That's what they've got left. They've got basically almost their entire navy. They lost a couple submarines so far. Over here, in terms of the Free French Navy, so the British and the Free French, they inherited a transport and 2 destroyers. The Germans came way better. They inherited a cruiser and a battleship. So the British are going to have, they're going to have to fight for the Atlantic. Right now the Axis have the tide, but why this is not that significant. It's going to help the Germans out, but once the Americans get into the war, the Germans and the Italians, they're not going to be having the naval superiority they do early in gameplay. A little bit more historical here. The Axis are still, at least in my gameplay, maybe not as winning as many games as they should. So, and I feel the area of the map that needs the most help is over here on the European side, not necessarily the Japanese side. So we'll see how this plays out. Now that we've kind of, given the Russians a bit more bite on the Eastern Front, the Germans need a little bit more help here in Western Europe. So in my opinion anyways, for now, this will bring a little bit more game balance. What else happened in round one? Well, there's nothing out of the ordinary. The Germans took Paris quite easily. They took Warsaw. They took Yugoslavia. They were not able to leave a land unit behind in Norway to get their NO bonus. The Norwegians scored 2 hits round one when the Germans came in, so they had to send a lighter than they wanted to forces into Narvik to make sure they secured Narvik. So that's what happened round one. Nothing too exciting other than, the rolling for the ships, and the Vichy territories, which is always kind of the exciting part of round one. The Japanese over here in the Pacific, and the Japanese strategy, in my opinion, is a lot more important when you're strategizing, and you should never play a game unless you have a what are the Japanese going to do strategy as the Japanese player. And guess what? I don't have a strategy other than early on in the game, I wanted to be able to push China as far back, the Chinese forces, the KMT and the CCP in China as possible before the Japanese set up to do their sneak attack. Now, which direction am I going to go? Not entirely sure yet. The round one purchase for the Japanese was a transport and as many ground units as possible. I didn't purchase any minor ICs simply because, unless Japan's going to be, doing, getting their transports out of position, the Japanese can use their transports on turn 2 to get those ground forces to the mainland, which, in my opinion, getting as many Japanese ground forces over to the mainland of China as early as possible is the strategy here. And the Japanese Navy here came down a couple submarines and a fully loaded carrier off of Sea Zone 103. And the Japanese were able to annex Siam and these 2 coastal territories, Qinghai and Kwangtung, and they backed out of all the other territories that they controlled, Johar, Shanxi, and so we'll see how the KMT and the CCP respond. I imagine those are going to be walk-ins, but the Japanese are pretty healthy early in gameplay, so we'll see how the Allies respond in the second half. So anyways, folks, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more Global War 1939 videos, Operation Summer Breeze.